likes me. Nobody likes me. But that's okay, because I don't like y'all anyway. And I don't like y'all anyway.
We need to pay attention to all this stuff. And don't muddy the waters. Don't let your mind get sidetracked. Because you need to remember that when, it's going to be time to vote again soon. So it's going to be local elections, all this stuff, everything, all these elections. You have to remember that the Republicans would rather collude with Russians than collude with Americans.
Them Staten Island niggas still puffing them dust blunt.
Donald Trump is a white supremacist who enables white supremacists. No lie. I mean, that's accurate. It's an accurate assessment of the situation.
Them Staten Island niggas still puffing them dust blunt.
Dragnets. How do they work? Just say no. Yeah. Here's the problem with just saying no. You can go about your life trying not to do drugs, but you turn on the news and you see Wigmaster over there talking about public health emergencies. That's why drugs are hard to stop. Because of people like that. Big week. It's always a big week. Can't we please have an uneventful week? That's all I want. All I want is one.
Them Staten Island niggas still puffing them dust blunt.
Oh, Jay, why are you wearing that resist shirt? What are you resisting? Bunch of isms and trees. Bigotry, misogyny, racism, fascism, and sexism. The people here are the people on the South Shore, in the rich neighborhoods, the richer neighborhoods, not the poor neighborhoods, are brought up on bigotry, hatred, and classification of, societal roles. Who's in your house? Dies in your house. What goes on, peeps? Jay Porks here. Back on a Friday. Back with another action-packed edition of Dies in Your House. It's not really action-packed. I don't really call it action. I call it like the pre-show. It's like the warm-up. It's the warm-up for the Jay Porks podcast, where we get into things in long form. Where we get into things like Fusion GPS, Glenn Simpson having his 10-hour testimony released by Dianne Feinstein. We're gonna get into that on Monday on a Martin Luther King Day edition of the Jay Porks podcast. Get into all the Russia stuff and the Republican hoax. The Republican hoax. We're gonna get into that, but really, I mean, what bothered me a lot of things, and I said it. Don't watch what they say. Don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. And I don't care what, countries this clown called whatever. Because that is a distraction from all of the horrors he's inflicting on the American people actually, not verbally, not mentally, but physically. Like, for instance, ICE officials, Immigration Customs Enforcement officers, they, this week, raided 7-Elevens countrywide. I get it. I understand that you're saying to yourselves, well, Jay, a lot of people not from America might work at 7-Eleven, and immigration needs to check on that. Yeah, okay. How many times has there been a terrorist bombing? How many times has there been something that happens? A mass shooting, whatever. And it is said that the culprit of said horrible crime worked at 7-Eleven. You know what I'm saying? And 7-Eleven and deli. You ever see the movie Crash? The guy would. It's not really that good of a movie, but I kind of like the racial, like how they clash and stuff. So it's called Crash. I guess the outside Crash. But anyway, so these people own a store. One of the families in the store. These people own a store, and the store gets like bombed not bombed, I guess it might be bombed or really terrorized to the point where it's turned upside down. And they wrote on the wall, like, Muslims go home or something like that. We don't like Muslims, you terrorist. And the father, says to the daughter, he says, but what do they mean? We are from India. We are Hindu. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, point is, most Delhi, I would think more India. And India is not a banned country last time I checked. India's got more people than we do. And listen, we're going to get into the growing Muslim population. We're going to talk about that on the J Porks podcast. People are so hyped up on immigration, they let the media sit in on a meeting. That was a thing. That's another distraction. That's another thing. It's the ball of tinsel to try to lure you away from the fact that Dianne Feinstein was putting out them facts, though. And I know she put them out after, but everybody knew that she was going to release it. She said she was going to. Because she's a boss. That's why. So, but isn't raiding massive 7-Elevens, wouldn't you call that low-hanging fruit? I know that's kind of unimaginative. I'm sure that's kind of insensitive for me to say, low-hanging fruit, but in a sense where, but why? Remember when I was a waiter? I was a waiter for, like, a lot of the time when I had this podcast. And remember when the owner of the restaurant I worked at was that racist firefighter clown that Pete Davidson would talk about? That Staten Island doesn't only have racist cops and heroin, it also has racist firefighters and meth, which is true. So, what I'm saying is, now that person has a bunch of people working in his kitchen that I'm sure are not documented immigrants. But since he's a person that supports the regime, they're not going to go into his restaurant and enforce that. Because at the end of the day, white people have a tendency in their mind, all these right-wing thinkers, all these right-wing white folks, the supremacy underlining subliminal in their mind, subconsciously, it's there. They might not even know it sometimes. But these are like, it's like a sleeper cell, like a Russian agent. Russians. They hacked our elections. It's like a Russian sleeper cell, like, you get the code, That's like what it is. Oh my god. So like 7-Eleven, so what's next? What's the next, chain restaurant that's gonna get, raided? The thing about, like, this clown is that he said, I'm the only person that ICE and Border Patrol supported. They didn't endorse anyone else ever. Let me tell you something. About that. Their jobs, like, there's more Border Patrol. They have more leniency to, do whatever the heck they want with Psycho Agent Orange, 00 Russia heading the regime. And I'm telling you, man, the Russians, they're not done. And we're going to get into more Christopher Steele and more Glenn Simpson on Monday, on a Martin Luther King Day edition of the J Porks podcast. But they're more into things. There's talk that they're trying to infiltrate the U.S. Senate. They're going to affect those elections because they don't want the Dems to take the Senate and the House. Because the Dems are because if the Democrats get the House, the Democrats can bring articles of impeachment and they have subpoena power and all that stuff. And senators, you really have to hope that you get all of them because there's only 100. There's more people caucusing in the House. So we're all hyped up on this immigration thing. We're raiding random 7-Elevens, right? And we're saying we got to deport these people. We still don't have a deal on Dreamers. As of press time, it's before noon on Friday when I'm taping this. I'm sorry, I know. I did it a little early. It's supposed to be more live, but as of press time, there's no Dreamers deal unless unless it comes with $1 billion for the wall, which is not a thing I'm going to be happy with Dick Durbin about if that's a thing that gets agreed to. So, there needs to be, here's what goes for the wall. 0, because you said Mexico was paying for it. See? That's what you said. And instead of watching what you said, I'm watching what you do. And what you do is you said you want $8 billion for a wall, and now you're going to get 1.6. I'm not happy with you getting anything. And that is a true story. So anyway, we got all these, we're all hyped up on immigration. We got to get rid of the Muslims. People from El Salvador have to leave. People from Haiti have to leave. All these people are losing their protections. The DACA kids have to leave. No path to immigration. The quote-unquote chain migration that's happening. And yet I read this article a couple of days ago. I'm not sure how old it was, so this isn't like breaking news. This isn't like, oh, Jay Parks reports. It's not that. It's not that at all. But I read an article that was weird to me. Now, explain this to me, right? Explain why I read somewhere that there's an influx of Russian women, pregnant Russian women, coming to America to have babies in America to be born automatic citizens. Then, however many years, either 18, 21, whatever, they can sponsor their parents and therefore make them citizens. And let me just tell you something. I'm not yet. The tinfoil is here. If you don't, do you hear this? The tinfoil is right here. I don't have a hat on yet. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and say that this is Vladimir Putin's way of having, oligarchic reign over America for the rest of life. He's only going to have it for 4 years. But I'm not going to say that, this is purposefully happening so we can have Russians growing up thinking like this Republican regime. Like, oh, Russia's not so bad. Russia's not so bad. Yeah, they're only like a country that specializes in covert operations. Like, if you were doing a word association game, I don't know, if you went Russian blank, the next word is spy. I mean, to me, it's not going to be white Russian, because I'm not putting the blank in front of Russian, the back of Russian. But, so why aren't people like John Cornyn and, whoever these nameless freaking Republican senators and House guys, why aren't they mad that this is a thing? Because isn't that chain migration? Isn't that what you'd call that? Or does that only apply when it's brown people? See, that's what I don't understand. I've talked about this on the Jay Pork podcast before, but I'll tell you a little story. A couple of years ago, my dad needed his toilet replaced or whatever, so some people came to install it. And they didn't speak English. They were only speaking Russian to each other. And that irked me so much. And somebody asked me, like, why did that bother you so much? Because I was, like, at work. I was yelling at people about it because, that's what I do. I don't talk to people. I yell at people. And I was saying, it didn't bother me that they were Russian, that they were foreign. It bothered me that if I was sitting with, some conservative thinker, some right-wing nutjob, some Trump supporter, they would sit there, and if two people came to install a toilet in your house, and they were two brown people speaking either Spanish or Arabic or any language that they don't know because, people aren't educated, people can't distinguish languages, Indian, whatever, Hindu, I don't know what the language is. I'm not politically correct. I'm sorry. I try to be, but I'm not. I'm stupid. Let me turn the mic back to me. wouldn't that person, wouldn't that conservative thinker, that Staten Islander, sit there and say, he took our dams. They took our dams. We gotta get them out of here. We gotta build a wall. We gotta build a wall. We gotta send them back. Yeah, let me ask you a question about the whole sending them back thing. Because I did some math, and the people that Republicans want to send back, the people that are getting restrictions removed from them, and the people that have to leave the country or are in limbo right now, and if you combine that with the undocumented people from across the border and stuff like that, if you add that all up, that's over 1 million people that have to leave the country. Who's paying for that? Am I paying for that? Is Mexico paying for that? Just like they're paying for the wall that they need billions of dollars for? That's not gonna go up because, you know, we don't need it, because walls don't work. And that's not where the drugs come from anyway. I mean, the drugs come from these fake wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and, you know, but okay, again, I'm sorry. Tinfoil's over there. I'm sorry. Dies in Your House is supposed to be concise, it's supposed to be to the point, and it's supposed to be a warm-up show for the J Parks podcast, and that's what it is. This Monday, we're coming to you with a Martin Luther King Day edition of the J Parks podcast. My man. So, immigration, basically, is what I'm saying. Why do we need all brown people to be extradited from the country, deported from the country, yet we're allowing pregnant Russian women to come over to America? It's not like they're coming over and, well, some of them are coming over and getting pregnant here and having, same deal. Why are we allowing that? Somebody explain it to me. Somebody explain it to me in a way that's not racist, and I will give you $1. J Porks, Dies in Your House.